D.I. Giles Book 6, Gone. Chapter 5. Incident at the Flea Market. Welshpool Cattle Market thronged with all manner of people. One of the biggest flea markets of the year was in full swing. China, books, vinyl and all manner of curios were changing hands at a fair rate, if not always at a fair price. The craggy Shropshire hills served as a romantic backdrop. Newlyweds Sarah and John had come down to see what they could get for their new home. Sarah really wanted a large chandelier for the dining room, but the usual high street prices were well beyond their reach. She hoped the flea market would have the answer, even if they had to do a little upcycling. Something caught her eye, an Art Deco telephone made of pale green marble and brass. An old-style circular dialing ring adorned the front. The wires were badly frayed and would need to be replaced, but Sarah thought it beautiful. She pulled John's arm to tell him so. His eyes were firmly fixed elsewhere. She followed his gaze, curious as to what had gripped him so. A boy, probably no more than 12 or 13, was being carried by 3 men in dark clothing. The men had their backs to him and were some distance away, heading for parked cars. The boy struggled to free himself. Sarah couldn't see his face. John made a start towards the men. Sarah looked around to see if anybody else had noticed. John began running and she followed, fumbling for her mobile phone. A side door to a large white van was torn open and 2 of the men clambered in with the boy. The van was muddy and there were no windows, save for those in the front cabin. The 3rd man jumped into the driver's seat and fired at the engine. John was still several feet away and panting hard when the van pulled away, tyres screeching on gravel. "Shall I call the police?" Sarah shouted to John, waving her mobile in the air. Another woman joined them, bending over to catch her breath. "What was that?" she asked, hands on hips. John shook his head. "I don't know. I heard the boy crying," the woman wheezed. The incident had clearly been witnessed by several others. A small crowd had formed. "Ring the police," John nodded, rubbing the back of his head. A fine sheen of sweat had gathered on his brow. He took several paces in the direction the van had gone, as though he might catch up with it, but returned muttering to himself. Sarah felt cold. It tingled up her sides as she punched 999 into the mobile. She held her breath. The operator coolly asked which emergency service she wanted. "I need the police. Please hurry. We've witnessed an abduction of a child," Sarah said, the words tripping over themselves. "Hold the line." Sarah bit her lip, scraping a shoe at the dirt. As soon as the police call handler returned, she rapidly related what they had seen. The handler assured her that help was on the way. John watched his wife, still muttering to himself. He held out an arm, his hand motioning her. "Is that the police? Can I speak to them?" Sarah passed him the phone. Her hand shook so much she almost dropped it. John appeared not to notice. He grabbed her mobile and blurted out a registration number into it, as though he were a volcano, no longer able to contain the magma churning inside his chambers. Sarah was impressed that he had thought to remember the number. She had not even registered it. She narrowly managed not to throw up. That was chapter 5 of Gone.